Hello students. So in this particular lecture, I am going to introduce you the first unit. So I will give you an overview of this information storage network first unit in this particular lecture. So let us continue what exactly the components and information storage network is. So upon completion of this particular lecture, you will be able to understand and define the data and information. You will be able to clearly distinguish what exactly the data and information. And also you should be able to describe the importance of information to individuals and to business. What exactly the information to an individual and also with respect to a business is. And also you will be able to discuss the categories of data, and also we will explore some evolution of what you can say the storage architectures, and also we will discuss about some management aspect related to the storage. So these are the contents that I am going to discuss in today's lecture, which clearly defines what exactly this particular subject is, means information storage network. So let us discuss why the information storage is a buzzing word nowadays. Information is increasingly important in our daily lives. So we have become an information dependent in this particular century, especially 21st century. Living in an on-command, on-demand world means we need information when and where it is required. We access the internet every day to perform searches, participate in social networking, we send and receive emails, we share pictures and also videos, and we use scores of other applications also. So equipped with growing number of content generating devices, more information is created by individuals than the organizations. Organizations means it can be a business organization, it can be a government organization, it can be a non-profit organizations, etc. Information created by individuals gains value when shared with others. When created information resides locally on devices such as your cell phones, smartphones, tablets, cameras and laptops, etc. To be shared, this information needs to be uploaded to the central repositories via network. Although the majority of information is created by individuals, it is stored and managed by a relatively small number of organizations. So continuing with this, the importance, dependency and volume of information for the business world also continue to grow at an outstanding rate. Business depend on the fast and reliable access of information, which is critical to their success. Examples of business processes or systems that rely on digital information includes airline reservations, telecommunications billing, internet commerce, electronic banking, credit card transaction processing systems, capital stock trading, healthcare processing, life insurance research, life science research, etc. So many are there. The increasing dependence of business on information has amplified the challenges in storing, protecting, and managing data. Legal, regulatory, and contractual obligations regarding the availability and protection of data further add to these challenges. Organizations usually maintain one or more data centers to store and manage information. So with respect to this, information management is a big challenge for an organization which seeks to store. So protect, optimize, and leverage the information optimally. So this is the trend. So a data center is the facility that contains information storage and other physical information technology resources for computing, networking, and storing information. Organizations optimizes resource utilization and eases resource management. Organizations incorporate virtualization in their data centers to transform them into a virtualized data centers. Cloud computing, which represents the fundamental shift in how the IT is built, managed, and provided, further reduces the information storage and management complexity. And also IT resource provisioning. Cloud computing brings in fully automated request fulfillment process that enables users to rapidly obtain storage and other IT resources on demand. So in this particular case, our aim, or in this particular scenario, the main thing is that why the information storage network is the buzzing word. So as we have come across the lots of data and different kinds of data, different nature of data, so now how it is to be stored, that is the very big challenge. Not only how it is to be stored, but the huge amount of data, we call it as a big data, that is being generated by so many organizations nowadays and also the individuals. So lots of streaming data is to be stored and it is to be analyzed for the growth of the individuals and the businesses. So this is the challenging. So for this particular reason, we need to, what you can say, think of how the storage network technology is and how we can contribute best to this particular domain. So continuing with this, let us define some elements with respect to this storage network. We'll start with what exactly the data is. So actually the organizations process data to derive the information required for their day-to-day operations. Storage is the repository that enables users to persistently store and retrieve digital data. Okay? So storage is nothing but just it is a repository to store the data. So with respect to that, what exactly the data is? So as described in this particular slide, data can be thought of as the raw collection of raw facts from which the conclusions might be drawn. It might be a handwritten letters, it might be a printed book, it might be a family of photographs, it might be printed and duly signed copies of mortgage papers, bank's ledgers, airline ticket, etc. These are all the examples that contain the data. So most data is being converted into a digital. So all these particular data is being converted into a digital form. So before the introduction of computers, the methods adopted for data creation and sharing were limited to fewer forms, such as paper and film. Today, the same data can be converted into more convenient form, such as email message, an ebook, or it can be a digital image, it can be a digital movie, etc. This data can be generated using computer and stored as strings of binary numbers, as shown in this particular figure. So there are various examples: video, photos, we have an e-book, we have emails. So all this is converted into a form of zeros and ones, that we call it as the digital data in this case. So data in this form is called digital data and is accessible by the user only after a computer process it. So we don't understand what exactly these zeros and ones. So for us, it is what? It is to be converted into the real letters. We have to, means what? We need an assistance of a computer for processing this digital data. So this is how the things goes here. So with the advancement of computer and communication technologies, the rate of data generation and sharing has also increased exponentially. So this is the point where we need to think of. So how the exponential growth of data can be managed. The following is the list of some of the factors that have been contributed to the growth of the digital data. So amongst that, increase in data processing capabilities. So this is one of the reason why the digital growth of how the growth of digital data is happening nowadays, because of increase in data processing capabilities. So modern computers provide a significant increase in the processing and storage capabilities. So because of this, we see the from conventional form to digital format of storing the data. The next one is lower cost of digital storage, new and cheaper peripherals. Okay, lower cost of digital storage. So technological advances and the decrease in the cost of storage devices have provided the low cost storage solutions. So this is one more factor to increase the growth of digital data. Next one is affordable and faster communication technologies, lower cost and increased speed of storage. The rate of sharing digital data is now much faster than the traditional approaches. A handwritten letter might take a week to reach its destination, whereas it typically takes just few seconds for an email message to reach its destination or recipient, you can say. So next factor which contributes to the growth of digital data is the proliferation of applications and smart devices. Proliferation means the generation, introduction of applications and also the smart devices. Smartphones, tablets and newer digital devices along with smart applications have significantly contributed to the generation of digital content. So inexpensive and easier way to create, collect and store all types of data, coupled with increasing individual and business needs, have led to the accelerated growth, popularly termed as data explosion. So this the generation of huge data is called as a data explosion in this particular case. So this is what the data is. So once we understand the data, now let us see what are the different types of data. So I have not yet introduced what exactly the information is. So we will discuss that information later. So before that, we will understand what exactly the categories or types of data that are available. So data can be classified as structured or unstructured. So data can be categorized either structured or unstructured data. So this particular categorization, it is based on how it is stored, how the data is stored and managed. Structured data is organized in rows and columns in rapidly, or what can say in rigidly defined format so that the applications can retrieve and process it efficiently. Okay, so structured data is nothing but the data is organized in rows and columns. So it is in a rigid format. In this format only the data is to be organized. So that's why we call it as a rigid format. So in this rigidly format the data is organized, then that data is called as a structured data. So for example, the structured data is typically stored using the database applications. So your DBMS, your spreadsheets, so these are called as the structured data examples. Data is unstructured if its elements cannot be stored in rows and columns. Means unstructured means there is no particular rigidity or what I can say, the format is there to store this kind of data. So it is a streaming data, we can say. So let us see what exactly it is. So data is unstructured if its elements cannot be stored in rows and columns, which makes it difficult to query and retrieve by applications. For example, customer contacts the contacts that are stored in various forms such as sticky notes, email messages, business cards, or even digital format files such as doc files, .txt files, .pdf files, etc. So unstructured. So there are various forms. It can be the data is stored in forms, images, it can be an audio file, it can be a video file, etc. So overall in this particular case, we will see in this, just have a look at this particular figure. So nowadays almost 80 to 85% of the data that is currently today that is being generated, digital data that is being generated, it is in the form of unstructured. So your forms, images, manuals, x-rays, okay, email attachment, PDF, instant messages, documents, web pages, rich medias, audio, video. So all these contribute to the unstructured format of data, and only the 20% of structured data that is available with the organization for their tasks. Due to its unstructured nature, it is difficult to retrieve this data using the traditional customer relationship management applications. Means what? The using traditional DBMS applications, DBMS technology, we cannot access the unstructured data. So vast majority of new data being created today is unstructured. So the industry is challenged with the new architectures, technologies, techniques and skills to store, manage and analyze and derive some value from unstructured data from numerous sources. So this is what the structured and unstructured data means. So continuing with this, now we will come to what exactly the information is. So we have already understood what exactly the data is and what are the different types of data. So now coming to this information, so data may be structured or unstructured, does not fulfill any purpose for individuals or business unless it is presented in a meaningful form. This is very important. Okay. So unless the data is presented in a meaningful form, then it is not at all useful for anybody, neither individual nor organization. So what exactly the information is then? Information is the intelligence and knowledge derived from data. Intelligence and knowledge derived from the data. So more, what I can say, in a nutshell, we can define the information as what? The meaningful data. The meaningful data can be thought of as a information which explores the intelligence and knowledge hidden in the data. So this is what the information is. So businesses analyze raw data to identify meaningful trends. On the basis of these trends, a company can plan or modify its strategy. For example, a retailer identifies customers' preferred products and brand names by analyzing their purchase patterns and maintaining an inventory of those products. So effective data analysis not only extends its benefits to existing business, but also creates a potential for new business opportunities by using the information in a creative way. So this is what the information is. So we can hit the buying habits and the patterns of customers, health history and patience. So you people might have seen in your Facebook page, or if you are doing an online transactions. So in that particular case, whatever the products that we have searched previously, those we have been advertised if you are not borrowing those particular things also. Okay. So this is how they are making, they are identifying the customer interest in that particular case. So this is only because of from the conversion from data to an information. So virtuous cycle of information begets information. Information can create another new information. So this is about the information. So what is the value of information to a business world? So as I have already discussed in the previous slide, to continue with that. So creating the competitive advantage is the major goal, or what you can say the value that the business will get. Identifying new business opportunities, buying and spending patterns of the customers, internet stores, retail stores, supermarkets. So all these are the examples. Customer satisfaction services can be enhanced, tracking the shipment and deliveries, identifying patterns that lead to changes in the existing business, reduced cost, just-in-time inventory, eliminating overstocking products, optimizing the shipment and delivery. New services like security alerts for stolen credit card purchases can be thrown. Means these are all the different services. This is how the businesses will take advantage of all this. Security factor, reducing the cost of the people and all those particular things. So customer satisfaction is one of the major things that what you can say works nowadays. So targeted marketing campaigns communicate to a bank customers with high account of balances about special savings plan. So these are all the different what you can say the terms where the businesses can explore to enhance their what you can say the enhance their service quality you can say. So after understanding data and the information and the types of data, let us move to the storage, what exactly this storage is. So this is where this particular subject talks about. So in this particular case, we'll start with the storage. What exactly the storage is? So huge amount of data is being flooded now. So how it is to be stored? So this is the question. If you ask this question, you understand why exactly the storage is required. Okay, right. So let us continue now. So data created by individuals or business must be stored so that it is easily accessible for further processing. In a computing environment, devices designed for storing data are termed storage devices or simply storage. The types of storage used varies based on the type of the data and the rate at which it is being created. Devices such as media cards in your cell phone or digital camera, DVDs, CD-ROMs, disk drives in personal computers. So these are all the what you can say the we can say the storage medias that we can consider. Businesses have several options available for storing the data, including internal hard disk, external disk arrays, tapes. These are for the business application because they need a huge amount of storage for their business data to be stored properly. So these are some of the options. So coming to the evolution of storage media, historically organizations had centralized computers like mainframes and information storage devices in their data center. The evolution of open systems, their affordability and ease of deployment made it possible for business units and departments to have their own servers and storage. So this was the concept earlier. In earlier implementations of open systems, the storage was typically internal to the server. These storage devices could not be shared with any other servers. So this is called as a server-centric storage. This is called as a server-centric storage architecture. Means what? An organization is maintaining a huge server, and in that particular server there is an storage is defined. There is a limited storage is been defined. So that particular storage cannot be shared with other servers also. So this is how the evolution of storage has been started. So that is called as a centralized mainframe computers. Okay, so this is what the thing is, which points to the server-centric storage architecture. So in this particular architecture, each server has limited number of storage devices, and any administrative tasks such as maintenance of the server or increasing the storage capacity might result in unavailability of information, unavailability of storage. So if because of maintenance purpose or some crash, okay, so if that particular server is off, then what? Or that particular server is down, then information is not available for processing or for the business. So it is a huge loss to the business. So this is what the problem with this particular architecture. So with this problem, they have tried to, this storage technology is getting better as they have understood the drawback of this particular architecture. The proliferation of departmental servers in enterprise resulted in an unprotected, unmanaged, fragmented islands of information and increased capital and operating expenses. So to overcome these particular problems, storage evolved from server-centric to information-centric architecture now. In this particular information-centric architecture, storage devices are managed centrally and independent servers. So this we call it as decentralized client-server model. So in this particular architecture, storage devices are managed centrally and independent of servers. These centrally managed storage devices are shared with multiple servers. When a new server is deployed in the environment, storage is assigned from the same shared storage devices to the server. This capacity of shared storage can be increased dynamically by adding more storage devices without impacting the information availability. In this architecture, information management is easier and cost effective. So client server model is much booming than from that particular point onwards. So storage technology and architecture continue to evolve, which enables organizations to consolidate, protect, optimize and leverage their data to achieve the highest return on information assets. So centralized, decentralized, storage networking technologies. So these are the buzzing terms in the storage media nowadays. So continuing with this, let us define what exactly the workstation, you call it as workstation, or it is also known as a data center in an organization. Okay, means that they need to manage the data. So what exactly the infrastructure is required? So that is called as data center infrastructure. So the core elements in this particular case. So before proceeding with the core elements, so let me introduce you this data center. Why this data center is required? Organizations maintain data centers to provide centralized data processing capabilities across the enterprise. Okay, data centers house and manage large amounts of data. The data center infrastructure includes hardware components such as computers, storage systems, network devices, power backups, software components such as operating systems, management software, etc. So these are the certain resources that are required to build the data center. It also includes environmental controls such as air conditioning, fire suppression, ventilation, etc. Large organizations often maintain more than one data center to distribute data processing workloads and provide backup if any bad things happen, like disasters, natural disasters. So with this introduction, let us discuss the core elements of data center. So there are 5 core elements that has been identified for the functionalities of what you can say the data center. First one is applications, your databases, host or compute. It is also termed as servers or operating systems. Nowadays it is known as host and compute, networks, and the storage media. So these are the 5 elements in this case. So coming to applications, so as you already know, what is an application? It's a computer program that provides a logic for computing operations. Okay, so everybody needs an application, okay, at the top of the hardware. So in that particular case, whatever the organization is, whichever the software they are using at the higher end for their business applications, so those applications are part of the data center. Means the necessary resources are required for processing the data. So all these are part of the data center, we can say. Next one, database management systems. So these provide a structured way to store data in logically organized tables that are interrelated. Then comes host or compute. So in this particular case, it's a computing platform. It can be a hardware, it can be a firmware, or it can be a software also. Okay, like system software, operating system, all these are which runs applications and databases. So host and compute, these particular things provides an environment to run the application. So this is what the host and compute, or what you can say servers and operating systems are required. Next element comes the networks. So a data path, it's a data path that facilitates communication among various networked devices. So in an data center environment, so many devices are connected, the storage devices are connected, so we need to establish the communication between them. So for this particular reason, the networks play an important role in to define the data path between the networked devices. And the last term is the storage. So this is a device that stores data persistently for subsequent usage. Okay, so it is a storage media to store the data, we can say. So these core elements are typically viewed and managed as a separate entities, but all the elements must work together to address data processing requirements. So that we already know that. So continuing with this data center environment, so let me talk about one example in this particular case. So let us closer look at this particular figure which defines an online order transaction system, online processing of orders. So what happens in this case? So we have an user interface application, we have the networks there, we have the server which is loaded with the operating system, your DBMS, we have the storage devices also there. So what are all the elements that we have defined in the data center, all have been included in this particular case to process the orders, online orders. So in this particular example, so a customer places an order through a client machine connected over LAN and WAN to a host running on order processing application. Okay. The client accesses the DBMS on the host through the application to provide order related information such as customer name, address, payment mode, products ordered, quantity ordered, etc. The DBMS uses the host operating system to write this data to the physical disk in the storage array. The storage networks provide the communication link between the host and the storage array and transports the request to read or write data between them. The storage array, after receiving the read-write request from the host, performs the necessary operations to store the data on the physical disk, that is the storage media. So these are what I can say. This is then one example how the data center works. So continuing with this, the next topic I am going to discuss is what are the key characteristics of a data center. So far we have understood what exactly the data center is, what are its key elements, and we have discussed one small example how it is works. So in your case, as what you think, for a business organization or any organization, for its data processing task, is these particular components are helpful or not? Yes, of course it is helpful. Okay. So these are the basic components that are required by the data center or to establish a workstation in the business organizations. So with that understanding, let us define certain key characteristics of data center. Uninterrupted operation of data centers is critical to the survival and success of a business. Organizations must have reliable infrastructure that ensures that data is accessible at all times. Although the characteristics such as shown in this particular figure are all applicable to the elements of data center infrastructure, the focus here is on storage systems. So let us closely look at this particular figure. So here totally we have 6 important characteristics and also one more additional characteristic we can say how best these particular characteristics can be managed. So starting with the availability, security, capacity, data integrity, performance, scalability. So these are the main characteristics. To support all these characteristics, we need one more supporting characteristic which we call it as manageability. So all these 7 characteristics togetherly, we can define it as the characteristics of a data center. So let us see one by one what exactly the characteristics are. The first one is availability. So a data center should ensure the availability of information when required. Unavailability of information could cost millions of dollars per hour to a business, such as financial services, telecommunications, and e-commerce applications. Okay, so as I have already told in the earlier sections, that information nowadays is 24/7, 365 days. It should be available to an organization. Okay, so that's what the focus is, because now we are talking about not only the repositorying the data, but also the availability of data. The information should be available for all the time. So that is the focus. So this is the key feature of the data center. Data center should ensure all its resources should be available all the time. That's what the first characteristic is suggesting. So all the elements should be designed to ensure the accessibility. The inability of users to access the data can have a significant negative impact on a business. Means that itself shows that the data center is not properly designed. Coming to the second characteristic, security. Data centers must establish policies, procedures, and core element integration to prevent unauthorized access to information. So this particular security aspect is very important for a data center, that it should have an, what you can say, give a proper security for the data. So unauthorized access to be avoided. So in this particular, this is a key feature where the data center has to play an important role in this particular case. So if there is an unauthorization or some malpractices that are happening with their particular data, then what the business, their business is going to lose, or it will cost heavier for them. Okay, so this is what the thing is. So for this particular reason, security is very much important. Next one is the scalability factor. Business growth often requires deploying more servers and also the new applications, additional databases. So all these are very much required. The data center resources should scale based on the requirements without interrupting the business operations. Okay, so scalability is important, because as the day by day the data is growing, day by day the systems are becoming much complex with the advent, what you can say, the more requirement from the users needs are increasing day by day. So considering all that particular thing, the scalability plays an important role for a data center. Next one is performance. So all the elements of the data center should provide optimal performance based on the required service levels. So it is very much important. Okay, so nowadays we want everything to be on task, we want everything on time, and which should be very quick. Okay, if we talk on all these particular factors, definitely the performance of a data center plays a very important role. So that's what this particular characteristic thinks of. So all the core elements of the data center should be able to provide optimal performance. Okay, so this is very important, and service all the processing requests at a quick speed, high speed, we can say. So continuing with this, the next one is data integrity. Data integrity defines mechanisms such as error correction codes or parity bits, which ensure the data is stored and retrieved exactly as it was received. Okay, so integrity of data is very important. So also data integrity and the security, so that all these particular things goes hand in hand. So whatever the data that is being sent, if it is been not received at the other end appropriately, then it's a loss of information to an organization. Okay, so to ensure that data integrity, ensuring the data integrity with respect to the data center is very important. So considering this while discussing the file types and all, I have discussed about the checksum. Okay, so checksum is one of the data integrity scheme where the organization is or data centers are maintaining. Okay, so using that particular checksum, they ensure that okay, the data is reached safely at the other end in the same format and in the same size. Continuing with this, the next properties or next what you can say the characteristic we can consider is capacity. So data center operations require adequate resources to store and process large amounts of data. When capacity requirements increase, the data center must provide additional capacity without interrupting availability or with minimal disruption. Capacity may be managed by reallocating the existing resources or by adding new resources. So this is increasing the capacity depending on the requirement is also a key characteristic of a data center. So these are the major characteristics. To support all these characteristics, one more is manageability. So this manageability of a data center should provide easy and integrated management of all its elements. Manageability can be achieved through automation and reduction of human intervention in common tasks. Okay, so we need all these particular things to happen automatically, quickly. Okay, so we need to minimize the human intervention as much as possible. Okay, so this is where the technology plays a very important role. So manageability. So these are the what you can say the characteristics which are we can say very much challenging for a data center to be robust. So with this, let me introduce you what are the how to manage the data center. So by understanding the data center concept, the data center architecture, the elements, the different characteristics of that. So what is the what are the management activities that can be done on this particular thing? So managing data center involves many different tasks like monitoring, provisioning, reporting. So with respect to this, let us see what is provisioning. So it is a process of providing the hardware, software and other resources required to run the data center. So this is the basic what you can say the basic requirements that should be provided to a data center, that is provisioning. We need to make a provision. Whoever is the administrator has to make a provision to process the data, and what are all the necessary resources are required, it should be made available. So this is what we call it as provisioning. So hardware, software and other resources should be made available to run the data center. Provisioning activities primarily include resource management to meet the capacity, availability, performance and also the security requirements. Next activity in this particular case is monitoring. Monitoring is nothing but it is a continuous process of gathering information on various elements and services running in a data center. The aspects of data center that are monitored include security, performance, availability, capacity. Okay, so data center should all the elements should be closely monitored all the time. So as I have told, if the data center is down, the data is not available to the business organization. So continuous monitoring is required with respect to note down the status of all these particular elements at every point in time. So this is very important for the business organization. So that's why this is one of the major, what you can say, the management activities in this case. Apart from that, we need one more supporting, what you can say, the activity, which we call it as reporting. It is done periodically on resource performance, capacity and utilization. Reporting tasks help to establish business justifications and chargeback of cost associated with data center operations. So after performing all this thing, so I want to know how the day-to-day report of my data center. So in that particular case, my authority, my management wants to know. So because depending on that, they want to enhance the data center, or they might take any other decisions on the data center and all that. Okay. So periodic review is very much important. Periodic performance review is very much important in this important activity to be considered with respect to the managing the data center is concerned. So apart from this, the virtualization and cloud computing have dramatically changed the way data center infrastructure resources are provisioned and managed. Organizations are rapidly deploying virtualization on various elements of data centers to optimize their utilization nowadays. Further, continuous cost pressure on IT and on-demand data processing requirements have resulted in the adoption of cloud computing facilities. So this is what the infrastructure required for information storage network. So with this, we come to an end of overview of your first unit. Thank you very much.